I'm Megan. Thank you for joining me today. This is going to be a somatic yoga video on how to help release the muscles that cause tension headaches. If you've had them before, you know they usually come up the back of the neck. You might even feel tightness through the tops of your shoulders, and they wrap around the back of the skull, can come across your forehead, into your temples. It can hit you in different places. Sometimes it's one side, sometimes both, unfortunately. But we're going to be working with some specific muscles because it's not the head that's causing the problem, it's the neck muscles. So if you want to take a look, I'll show you that we're going to be working with the levator scapula, which do exactly what it sounds like they do. They lift your scapula up towards your ears, your shoulder blades, as I'll call them for the class. And then we'll also be working with the upper trapezius muscles, which run up the back of your neck and the front of the neck. If you want to take a look, we'll be working with the sternocleidomastoid muscles. That's a mouthful, so I'm going to say SCMs, and also the scalene muscles. So those are some of the contributors to tension headaches. And I'm going to encourage you to please get a towel. You're going to need that. At the end, we're going to finish with an Ayurvedic Marma therapy meditation where we'll go through some of the Marma points that help to release, relax, and balance the energetic or subtle body around the neck and the throat. So let's get started. Coming down onto our backs, take a moment and just let yourself land. So if that landing includes needing some movement, you can hug your knees into your chest, roll around a little bit. I always encourage that playfulness, even when we have the tension headache. Take yourself into some other part of your body. Wiggle your toes, your fingers. And then options, because we will be on our back, is to keep your knees bent with the feet on the floor in constructive rest. And that's usually a comfortable place for the low back. If you choose to extend your leg, please feel free to take something underneath your knees so that the low back is still relaxed. It doesn't go into that tight arch. You're not pulling on it in any way. So I'm going to keep my knees bent mainly because I like to feel my feet on the ground. So as we're beginning by locating, locate every part of your body that's touching the ground. It could be the soles of the feet. It might be the calves and the thighs, the back of the pelvis. What parts of your back and spine touch the ground? And notice as you come up towards the shoulders, where your shoulder blades, are they resting easily on the floor, or does one side feel heavier, or are they in different positions? Can you locate your shoulder blades? And notice the natural curve in your neck. And where is the weight resting? In your head. Where is that spot in the back of your skull that the weight is resting? And come to the front of the face and just feel yourself breathing through your nose, through your mouth. That acceptance of just letting the breath breathe you. This is the first way we can touch our throat, is through the breath itself, feeling it go down through the throat, almost as if you're sipping the air into the base of the throat. Easeful, full inhalation, followed by a complete, slow exhalation. If there was a really yummy smell in the air right now, you could sniff it through your nose and breathe it right into the base of the throat. Take your arms into whatever position makes you feel like your shoulder blades and the upper back can really feel that ground. And then once we've landed, we can locate ourselves. Locate the rest of your body, maybe the parts of your body that are moving with your breath beyond your throat. Anything else you can feel. And we'll get started by turning to the left side. So in your mind's eye, locate your left shoulder. If you want to do this to your breath, as you breathe in, slowly turn your chin to the left. So I said chin, and I want you to purposely move from your chin a few times. As you breathe out, come back to the center. If we're breathing to the breath, the usual pattern of movement is to move. The activation, the work is on the inhale. And the exhalation brings us back to our center, our midline, our space of grace. So if you've been moving from your chin, here's one of the important parts of our brain learning to reprogram these muscles is where we're initiating movement from so that our body can remap us. So start to move from the nose instead of the chin. Or perhaps instead of the nose, you want to think of the bottom of the skull and move from the roof of your mouth. You might feel yourself moving from your ear and the left side of the skull. But we're just turning for now to the left. Nothing forceful. Just kind of checking your range of motion to the left. And then we're going to add the next movement. And this practice is a little bit like stacking blocks. It's like one movement and then the next and then the next. And when we come out, we take one block out at a time. So you're going to continue to turn to the left slowly. Once you get as far as you can go comfortably, lift your chin up away from your shoulder as far as you can go comfortably. And then bring the chin back down. There's that one block lifting. And roll the head back to center. So just putting those two movements together now. Rolling to the left. Really pay attention to what muscles are helping you to do this, and remembering that, and then we lift the chin up, that your 12-pound head, maybe 11, is completely supported by the ground. There's no need to use the muscles to hold your head, simply to move it. Bring your chin back down and to the center. And you can do that one more time. Turning to the left and lifting up. Bring your chin away from the shoulder. And the shoulder blades are relaxed. And back. And so as we add the next movement, I'm going to come to a seated position, which I'll mention that once you know these, they can be done seated in a chair if you get those tension headaches and you can't lie down on your floor at work. But I like to use the floor because the ground heals us and it keeps us in a more honest alignment of staying out of that head forward position. But to do it in a seated position, we'd turn to the left. And then you're going to bring the chin up away from the shoulder. Then you're going to take the right shoulder, feel your right shoulder blade, and slide it up towards your ear. So if somebody were to come and take their hand underneath your armpit, you're going to lift the shoulder up on the right side. And you're looking over your left shoulder blades relaxed. Release the right arm. Bring the chin down to its more neutral position, and then roll back to center. Let's keep exploring those three movements together. Turning to the left. Lift the chin up. So start to notice how you're feeling stretching in the front of the throat. And then you're going to squeeze that right shoulder. So that is your levator scapula. You can feel your shoulder blade sliding up towards your ear. It's lifting up. That's one of those bugger muscles. And now we're going to add even a little bit more. So once that shoulder is lifted, think of gently pressing the right shoulder blade into the ground. So from the ground space, my head's turned, I'm lifting. I'm going to squeeze the right shoulder up and then push the shoulder blade into the ground. And you can also lift the right shoulder blade away from the ground. And then release the whole right shoulder. Bring your chin back to the center position slowly. So I'll do it seated again. So the idea is to really move slow and voluntarily ask these muscles to move your neck without tightening anything around it that doesn't need to work. So you might find, I find that I'll try to press my left shoulder into the ground, and we don't need to do that. So simply turning to the left, lift the chin up away from the left shoulder, and then reach the right shoulder up towards the right ear. So you're going to feel the side body on the right side get long. So you're really compressing or contracting the right side of the neck. That levator scapula is active. You can also feel your upper trapezius muscle. Push the right shoulder into the ground. So we do both of these. Sometimes one or the other will help with the crankiness. I know for me, one side likes to be pushed into the ground with the right shoulder. The other side prefers to lift away. It's not a right or wrong. We're just trying to take the muscles through the range of motion. And then the really important part is to complete release of that right shoulder. Let it find the floor again. Then you can drop the chin back down towards the left shoulder, turn back to the center. Let's do one more, just exploring those movements. Turning to the left. Lift the chin up away from the left shoulder. Maybe you're noticing you can go a little further. Then squeeze the right shoulder up towards the ear. Tighten up that right side, the top of the shoulder, the side of the neck. And you can push the right shoulder blade into the floor. So there's two ways that we create force. One is to push into the ground. You can do that. Feel that tightness around the upper right back. You can also lift the shoulder blade, the outer edge, away from the floor. You'll feel those pectoral muscles around the collarbone tighten up. So that's the other way we create the force, is to lift away from the ground. And then that sweetness of just letting the right shoulder completely relax. Bring your chin back down and turn to the center. And I'm going to come down with you as we get ready to do side two. But before we do side two, the magic moment. Just pause. Maybe come back into your breath, sip your breath to the base of the throat, and feel the two sides of your neck. Notice your shoulder blades again. Are they connecting with the floor any differently? And perhaps they're not physically connecting differently, but sometimes the body maps them differently. So one might feel heavier or lighter, or bigger or smaller. Just noticing, and then we'll be doing this same movement to the opposite side. So you're turning your chin. You can start from the chin towards the right shoulder. See how that feels to initiate from the chin. And slowly turning back. You can even feel the way your skull is connecting with the ground as you do that. You start from the base of the skull, and then you're rolling through the right side of the skull towards the ear, as far as you can go without causing strain. Coming back to the center again, and then see if you can do that same movement from somewhere else, initiating from the nose. You can play around with initiating from the roof of the mouth, or even the right ear. And does it feel any different than moving from the chin? So this idea of locating your skull and moving from your skull to the right. And next time you're to the right, we'll add that second movement, which is lifting the chin up away from the right shoulder. So feel a little more stretch through that left side of the neck, maybe even through your jaw. Bring the chin back down, roll it back to center. There is no hurry. Doing just those two movements again, exploring the roll to the right, the lifting away. And you can do this with your eyes opened or closed. Sometimes it's good to try both. I even lead with my eyes at times, and we'll keep them open. It looks kind of funny on the camera, but it works. Bring your head back down and roll it to the center. Let's do one more, just those two movements. Rolling to the right. Begin to lift the head like you're trying to gaze up over on top of you, whatever's behind you. Take the chin back down and roll the head to center. Now we're going to be adding that other part, which is going to be the left shoulder blade. So you can locate that first where it's touching the ground. And not the arm. The arm is relaxed. And then roll to the right. Lift the chin up like you're looking behind you. And then feel that left shoulder blade. Slide it up towards your ear. So there's the levator scapula on the left side. It's lifting or levitating the shoulder blade. Just release that. See where it lands naturally. Bring your chin back down towards your shoulder to a more neutral position. Roll back to the center. Let's do just that 2 more times. Rolling to the left. Take your time. Feel the muscles. Remember, your head is heavy. Let it be all 12 pounds on the earth. lift up, and then lift the left shoulder towards the ear. Squeeze that up. Feel that tightness through the top of the left shoulder and the side. Relax the left shoulder. Bring your chin a little closer to the center line towards your right shoulder, and then roll it all the way back to the midline. Let's add that next movement, and I'm going to sit up just to show this one, but you're using the floor to feel. So you're slowly turning to the right. Lift the chin up away from the right shoulder. Sense your left shoulder blade. Slide it up your back towards the base of the neck. Feel that tightness already. And now you're going to push the left shoulder blade into the ground, especially that outer edge, and feel how all the space around the shoulder blade is tightening up. That's the push into to create force, but you can also lift the left shoulder blade away from the ground. And I'm not letting it drop. I'm still keeping it lifted too. Some of us walk around like this sometimes. I do, right? I catch myself holding the shoulder up like this. That's that levator scapula, especially in the old days when we had those big phone cradles. Not good. But you can also bring it forward, and you're going to feel those pectoral muscles around the collarbone tighten. And then that sweetness of just letting the left shoulder find the ground. The shoulder blade relaxes onto the ground. I lost my head here. Bring your chin back down. Roll it back to center. Definitely don't advise that you speak while you're doing this one. Let's do 2 more. Roll to the right. Lift the chin up away from the right shoulder. Sense the stretch through the left neck. And then like you're squeezing out that stretch, like there's a sponge between your shoulder and the side of the neck. Lift it up. You're squeezing the sponge. And then push the shoulder blade into the ground. You might also find you want to lift the shoulder blade away from the ground, that outer edge in the back of the shoulder. And just letting it fall and release and let go. Bring the chin back down. Roll the head to center. One more there. See how it's treating you. Roll to the right as far as you can go. And notice if you're increasing your range of mobility as you do this. Or maybe your range of motion looking up and overhead. Then squeeze that sponge between the top of your shoulder and your left ear. Lift up like somebody's lifting under your armpit. You can push the left shoulder blade into the ground. You can also lift it away from the ground. Think of trying to touch the front of the shoulder, the head of the arm bone to the collarbone. And then let it go. Head back to neutral position all the way to the center line. Okay. Once again, we'll pause. Just feeling the 2 sides of the neck. If you want to move your lower body, so if you're feeling any crankiness building down there, please feel free to. We're going to go right into the next movement. Similar, just a slightly different muscle pattern. So you can see what we're doing is we're actually activating these muscles. We're taking them into a deeper state of contraction or tightness. And what sometimes happens is that deeper state of contraction is still movement for the muscles. So the contraction is important to move them, but it's ultimately the letting go to release them that we really want to let the brain feel. So feel the contraction, feel the release. Starting with the second movement. As you breathe in, starting with the second movement. This time you're going to roll the head towards the left shoulder, but you're going to bring the chin down towards the left shoulder. You're trying to look at your shoulder. It's going to be hard for me to talk here. Then you're going to take the left shoulder and squeeze it towards your cheek. So it's going to be a pretty tight space there. Like if you were trying to hold a piece of paper on a windy day between your shoulder and your chin or your jawbone. And then release that left shoulder. Bring your chin back up slightly to the center position and roll back. This whole time you can be experimenting with moving from your chin versus moving from your soft palate and the roof of the mouth, your skull, your nose, your eyes. So you're rolling first, then bringing the chin down like you're looking at the left shoulder, and squeezing the left shoulder up towards the chin. So now you're really noticing what we're doing is we're tightening the muscles in that left shoulder, not only the levator scapula, but tightening the whole top of the shoulder and releasing. I'm going to come to a seated position again to show you the next movement that we add on, but please stay where you are. Use the floor to feel and heal. We turn to the left. Take the chin down towards the left shoulder. Lift the left shoulder up towards the chin. So let yourself be present in that contracted state. Now take your right shoulder, or think of your armpit, and draw it down towards your right hip. And I'm not using my arm so much. I'm keeping my arm relaxed. I'm thinking of using the muscles on my upper back, through my side body and my upper chest. So armpit area, almost like if somebody were to come along and push on the top of your shoulder. You're going to do that. Release the right shoulder. Release the left shoulder. Lift the chin slightly. Turn back to the center. Do those 3 movements one more time. Turning to the left. Pause to feel. Bring the chin down towards the chest. Lift the shoulder up. I guess it's actually 4 movements. And then lifting that, taking the right shoulder down towards the ground. And now the next movement, you can do what we did on the other side, where you gently press the right shoulder into the ground. So what you might notice is we're actually creating a length now through this right side and a lot of tightness or shortness through the left side. So there's a sense of imbalance here. And what I like to add to this is very gently just bringing the chin back and forth, almost like you're nodding. So keep that right side long, pressing right shoulder blade into the ground. And release the right shoulder, release the left shoulder. Bring the chin up and turn back to center and pause. Let's do one more of those. Feel your breath, breathe through the base of the throat. We start by turning the chin to the left, bringing the chin down towards the shoulder, bringing the shoulder up towards the chin. So feel that tightness through the whole left shoulder. And then reach the right shoulder blade. You can move from your shoulder blade. You can move from your collarbone. I like to use the bones, the bony landmarks. And then gently push the right shoulder just a little bit into the ground. You might slightly move your head just a little bit up and down. Just a little micro movements. Completely release the right shoulder. Release the left shoulder. And turn the head to center. Pause in that magic moment of feeling the 2 sides of your neck. Sometimes it's almost like there's an imbalance after we've done one side and not the second side. Let's do it to the right. Turning head to the right. Once you've gone as far as you can comfortably, bring the chin down towards the chest or towards the top of the shoulder. And then squeeze the shoulder up towards the jawbone, the nose, the ear, wherever you're locating yourself. Release the shoulder, lift the chin slightly, and roll the head back to the midline so it's in line with the spine. Doing just that one again. Rolling to the right. Bring the chin down towards the shoulder. Squeeze the shoulder up towards the chin or the ear. Create all that tightness through the left shoulder. Right shoulder's not doing anything yet. The right shoulder's doing all the work. The left shoulder's relaxing. It's on holiday. And that's something you want to take. That's part of taking the control. If that left shoulder's trying to jump in there, tell it to relax. That's what's happening with me. That's my grumpy side. Relax the right shoulder. Lift the chin slightly, turn back to the center. So let's add that second part. So now we will be adding that left shoulder in, but we're going to lengthen it. Roll to the right. Bring the chin down towards the top of the right shoulder. You're looking down, maybe towards your feet almost. Squeeze the right shoulder up towards the chin. And now you're going to take the left shoulder and slide it towards your hip. Think of your armpit going towards your outer hip, or think of your shoulder blade sliding towards your low back. Feel that whole stretch line through the left side of the neck. And then you can explore that even more by gently pressing that left shoulder blade into the ground. Release the left shoulder. Release the right shoulder. Lift your chin. And roll back to the center. We'll do that again, adding the last little part. And sometimes, when we stack these blocks, you don't need to stack all the blocks. There might just be a couple of these movements that are successful. You don't have to go through the whole thing. See what works for you. Roll to the right. Bring the chin down towards the right shoulder. Bring the right shoulder up towards the ear. So be present in that tightness in the right side. That shoulder blade is tight, the pectoral muscles. Now reach the left shoulder down towards the hip and feel the stretch through the left side. So the Levator scapula is lifting on the right side, and then we're pulling down on that left, stretching your trapezius, upper trapezius muscles, among others. And then you can gently push the left shoulder into the ground. If that helps, if it doesn't, let that part go. And just nod your head, these little micro movements. Is there a certain spot? So you kind of find that sweet spot. And imagine sending your breath, maybe a color or temperature, and send it right into that sweet spot. Relax the left shoulder completely. Relax the right shoulder. Lift your chin slightly, turn back to the center. Last one. To the right. Just feel the weight of your head rolling, like your right cheek's relaxing towards the ground. Then bring the chin down. Bring the shoulder up. Create that tight space like you're squeezing that sponge. Now slide your left shoulder down towards your hip, like you're trying to touch your armpit to your outer hip. You can press the left shoulder blade into the ground and then gently move your head, just those micro movements. Or maybe you've found your sweet spot now and you can hang out there. So purposely creating this tension and then very purposefully releasing it. Left shoulder first, right shoulder, lift the chin, roll back to the center. Pause for just a few breaths, be still. And then sometimes after doing so much in the upper body, the pelvis wants a little recognition, so we're going to bring that in just for a moment. So you can feel yourself. You might even take your hands to the hip bones in the front there. And we're going to do what I sometimes call pelvic circles, or it's often called the clock face. But very simply, think of where your tailbone is. You can push your tailbone down, and then your right hip pushes down. And then your low back and low ribs push down. And then your left hip pushes down. So we're back to tailbone, pushing down, right hip pushing down, low back, low ribs, and left hip. So we're making these circles. If you remember earlier I mentioned you can create force, so that muscular engagement by pushing into the floor. But you can also do it by lifting away from the floor. So pushing into or pulling away from. So if you want to explore that, think of lifting or arching the low back and then lifting the left hip. Lifting the tailbone. Lifting the right hip. So it's just kind of a game for the mind to be able to make the same movement but in different ways. You can of course also switch the direction. So you might find it's more comfortable and mobile for you to push into the ground to create these pelvic circles, or it might be more comfortable and mobile to do it by pulling away from the ground. Usually it's a combination. So as you're doing this, I'm going to have you completely switch your awareness into your head and neck. Keep rolling. Have you been squeezing everything there and tightening it? Or notice if, for me it's hard, I'm talking, but does your head feel like it wants to go along for the ride? So that freedom comes in letting the head, and if it's not doing it, you can encourage it, you can coax it to do those same circles as the pelvis. Just like with the pelvis, you might think of pushing certain areas of your skull into the ground or pulling away. The other way to explore the head, which I find is very successful, is starting from different places. So instead of just thinking of moving from the chin, move from the nose again, or even the point between the brows. You can move from the base of the skull. See if you can willingly switch directions. So the pelvis and the neck. We're just kind of having a little play date here, rolling in circles. Leg muscles relaxed, arm muscles are relaxed. And we'll come back and pause again. Notice any changes in your body. And we just notice without judgment, without telling any stories. Our body just wants us to feel it just wants us to feel through sensation. And then we've got one more movement that we're going to do, and this one is specific to working into the muscles in the front of the throat, so those SCM muscles and the scalene muscles. And what we find is that by activating those, that often helps to encourage the muscles in the back of the neck to relax. What most of us have, because of the texting neck head forward thing, is the back of the neck is long and weak, and the front of the neck is short and weak. So not a good combination no matter how we do it. So we're going to engage these muscles in the front of the neck. But the way we want to do that is think of moving from your nose as opposed to your chin, and bring your nose slightly towards your chin, or think of the entire skull. So the base of your skull starts just under your nose all the way to the crown of the head. So what we find is if we move from the chin, you're actually going to keep more curve in the back of the neck. We're not getting the full length, and you're really just kind of squishing your throat. What we want to do is create length in the back of the neck. So you might even put your finger for a moment on your chin and direct your movement from your chin. And how does that feel to those muscles in the back of your neck? So I'm going to come up for a moment and just show. If I were on the ground, my head would be in line with my spine. And if I move from my chin, my whole head comes forward. So instead, I want to lengthen, so I'm going to move, and you can put your finger on your nose. Move from your nose. And it might feel like a smaller movement, but that's okay. We're not going for size. We're going for creating length through the back of the neck. So moving from the nose. Once we found that, we go into the next part. So lengthen the back of the neck. And then you're going to just slightly, if this, by the way, if you have neck pain right now, like anything other than just the tension of the muscles, then this is contraindicated for you. But we're going to bring the chin towards the chest and slightly lift the head off the floor. I'm not coming way up. In fact, that's defeating the purpose. Just enough to like slip that towel underneath your head, one layer of towel. Once you've lifted up, release back down and let go. So what you're noticing when you're lifting up is these muscles in the front of the neck. You could even place your hand on them, are going to activate. Tuck the chin, or tuck the nose slightly, lengthen the back of the neck. Lift the weight of the head. So I don't want to lift it way up here. I want to keep the neck long and just slightly lift it. Can you feel those muscles in the front of the throat? You might even touch them with your fingers and come back down. Once we know we have that, we can begin a slight rotation. So now, bring the nose towards the chest, lengthening the back. Lift the head just slightly, and you're going to start to turn the head towards the left shoulder. Notice if you feel any shaking or quivering. That's just a sign that those muscles are locked up. So when we start to turn to the left, you're going to feel the left side shortening even more. Right side's still active slightly, but it's lengthening. Keep the head slightly lifted, turn back to the center, and slowly let the head come down, completely relax. That 12-pound ball at the top of your spine, completely supported by the floor. We'll do one more to the left. Nose towards the chest. Feel the length through the back of the neck. Slightly lift. Slowly rotate towards the left shoulder. And something I notice here is that the tendency to now push the shoulders into the ground, right? To support the weight of the head, you gotta keep the shoulders relaxed, whatever arm position that works for you. Turning. Keep those shoulders relaxed. Feel the muscles in the front of the neck supporting the weight of the head. Jaw relaxed. Roll back to the center. Release the head down. Take a few breaths, maybe into the back of the neck now. We're going to do the same thing to the opposite direction. And sometimes you only get the quivering on one side. That's usually will help to indicate to you maybe your tension headaches are just coming as a result of muscles on one side of the neck. That's my story, the left side that I just work with. And you'll find as you do these practices, your body will either respond to it needs that going into the deeper contraction to release, or sometimes it needs to go into the long active muscle to release. But either way, you're moving the muscles. So going the opposite direction, tuck the nose towards the chest, back of the neck long, lifting head slightly off the ground, and slowly turning to the right, checking to see you're not tightening the shoulders, right? They might come up off the ground. We did that earlier. That part's done. Shoulders and arms are heavy. Just turning to the right. Breathing. Watch for that quivering or shaking. Turn back to the center. Slowly let the head come down. Release the muscles in the front of the throat and the neck. Breathe into those muscles. One more time to the right. Shoulder blades resting on the ground. Lengthen the back of the neck. Feel the position of the skull. And then think of lifting your skull off the ground. Turning the skull to the right. So the shoulders don't have to do the work. The muscles in the front of the neck. Turning as far as you can go comfortably. Notice the length through the left side of the neck in that front muscle. You can even touch your SEM muscle there. If you don't know where it is, now you do. Right side is short. Turn back to the center. Let it come down. Complete relax and release. After doing that one, I'm just going to let the neck relax, but before we do, I want you to hug your knees into your chest. Feel free to roll around a little bit. Again, encouraging the low back to relax. And we'll do one more tail to tongue movement. So the tail to tongue on this one is we're going to do the pelvic tilt. And this is a nice assessment too. So the pelvic tilting is when, as we breathe in, the tailbone is going to push into the ground. So that's that arch of the low back. And you can also push your shoulder blades into the ground. That's my inhale. So the whole back and spine is arched away from the floor. As I exhale, I'm going to lift the tailbone slightly, or think of pressing low back, low ribs into the ground, and lift the shoulder blades slightly. So the front body's shortening, the back body's lengthening. So start by moving from the pelvis and the shoulder blades, or maybe just the pelvis, especially if this is a new movement. I do this one a lot in my classes, so you may be familiar with it. But we want to notice, this is the assessment part, is as you're doing this, kind of like when we were circling the pelvis, is your head responding in any way? And what is your neck doing? So when we arch the back, whether that's just pressing the tailbone down or lifting the low back and low ribs, or pressing the shoulder blades, then what we should feel is the chin actually comes towards the chest. The back of the neck lengthens as the low back shortens. So they do the opposite. And then as we breathe out, the low back lengthens as the tailbone lifts, the shoulder blades lift, so the whole backside is lengthening. And we bring the chin away from the chest, so the neck is actually shortening the cervical spine. And that's the relationship, tail to tongue. Breathing in will shorten the low back and the tail area presses down, the shoulder blades press down, the back of the neck lengthens. Breathing out, the tail lifts, the low back lengthens, and the back of the neck shortens. Or I should say arches, however you feel it. Continue to gently move through this tail to tongue movement. And where we may have initially started by rocking the pelvis back and forth, and remember, if you're doing this to your breath, the inhale takes you into the arch, the exhale into the curl. And if you've watched my other video on the 4 deep core, you'll understand why we do it that way. But see if you can initiate this movement from your head, from your skull, and will your tail follow your tongue? So that's that freedom. Being able to initiate from the pelvis or from the head. You can do it with eyes opened or closed. And once you're playing with initiating from the head, there's lots of specific places to start from. It could be the chin. It could be the tongue. It could be the eyes, the cheeks, the nose, or the entire skull. So it's like you're taking the pelvis for a ride. Whatever your neck does, your pelvis will follow it along. It copies it. Back and forth. Just a few more. And come to a still position. Any other movements you need for yourself? Perhaps just rolling to your side and pausing because we have been on our back for a while. Coming to a seated position, and you may want to come up before we get ready for our Ayurvedic Marma meditation, because what I'd like you to do is to take that towel, and if you only had the one towel, you want something underneath your knees too, please, because I am going to have you extend your legs, but take the towel, roll it up so that you have just enough, you can kind of feel the back of your neck there, just enough to support the back of the neck. So usually just a couple of inches, but everybody's neck is slightly different. And we're going to create that neck roll. You can extend your legs. I'm going to be coming up to a seated position, but if you're extending your legs, put something underneath the knees. And that neck roll goes right underneath the natural curve of your neck. So it might feel like just a slight bit of pressure or compression into the neck. But what we're trying to avoid is lifting the head up like if you've got pillow head. We don't want pillow head. We want the neck in a neutral position, but just that curve supported. Take a few breaths in and out. Locate and land again. Locate the parts of your body that are touching the ground. And as you land and locate yourself, do any physical movements that bring more relaxation, maybe to the pelvis. You might widen your legs or let your toes fall out to the edges. Gently jelly roll your legs. Relax the shoulder blades. The arms might want to go further away from the body or closer to the body or even on the body. How can you maximize that feeling of support of the back body on the earth? Just landing on the earth and then locating the rest of the body through those spaces that are touching the earth. Feel your breath, sipping it into the throat once again. And we're going to begin our Ayurvedic Marma meditation. And you can use the floor to feel these positions, starting with the space. in the inner edge of the shoulder blades towards the bottom, about 3/4 of the way down. See if you can just land and locate in that space, the inner edges of the shoulder blades. This is Ayurvedic Marma Point. And you can just be present in this space. It correlates with our heart. It's the back door of the heart and the energetic body. Just be present to see what might show itself in this space. Is there more awareness of the left or the right? Maybe you can't find them today, and that's okay too. And then we're going to move slightly upwards, still in the inner edges of the shoulder blades. And the muscles were coming towards the upper trapezius muscles. And this is Amsapalika Marma Point. And those upper tips of the inner shoulder blades. We've just been using those muscles so wisely. But now take yourself into this space energetically and just feel into that space. What presents itself to you. And it might be physical, a weight difference between the right and the left shoulder blade. You see colors or have any thoughts. We bring our awareness upward once again. This time, imagine you're wearing a necklace and feel where that necklace would land the bottom of your neck. This is our Amsa Marma. Just be present in this space, the right side and the left side. Right at the base of the neck, as if you had your necklace on. This space is important in balancing our fifth chakra, the Vishuddha chakra. It's particularly important in Vata, which is the wind energy. But just feel the space at the base of the neck. Be present. Give it an opportunity to talk to you. Continue to move upward towards the base of the skull, the occiput. So feel right where the neck comes into your skull. Right side and left side. Can you land and locate both sides, or maybe one is more prominent than the other? And that's the important space. This is where cranial sacral therapists do their work. But you're just noticing it. Kritikita Marma Point. Feeling, being aware of the space. Where does the neck become the skull? Very important point in our sense of awareness of proprioception, where our body is in space. So our skull has to feel where our body is. And it relies on this space at the base of the neck, the top of the neck, where it meets the skull. So take an extra moment again to land and locate in this space in the base of the neck. See if you can direct your pranic breath into that place. And then the final point we'll be working with today in this meditation is Nila Marma Point. And with this point, please bring your awareness to the front of the throat. Imagine this space about as long as your pinky finger in the front of the throat. And in the Marma therapy, this is our fifth chakra. And our fifth chakra is responsible for self-expression, for communication, how we listen, as well as how we present ourselves. Take a few breaths and notice as you're breathing in, feel that upward movement in the throat, and then breathe out and let it go out. This is also the space. Nila Marma connects us to our Udana Vayu, which is this upward and outward movement of the prana, the big P prana from our body, the life force energy. So you can see it as a color, feel it as a temperature, but feel it moving up and out through the front of the throat. A sense of ease, spaciousness in your throat, the jaw's relaxed. It's the super highway between the head and the heart. And we'll say things like, we get all choked up. And that's what happens. We get choked up, and that can lead to these tension headaches. So give yourself an opportunity to express what you need to express right now. Maybe there's something you've been holding back on saying to someone else, or something that you want to say to yourself. This is your opportunity for self-expression. And you can send your breath in here, physically and pranically. Feel the breath through the throat. Sipping it once again to the base of the throat, through Nila Marma. But pranically, what are you breathing into your throat? Is there a word, a thought, an intention, an expression that you want to breathe into your throat? As you explore your self-communication and your journey, I'll leave you with a thought on part of mine and how this video came to be today. I started to do a core practice and couldn't get myself to do it. There was this little voice inside of me, we say that, right, talking to me. And I realized after about 20 minutes that it's a full moon today as I'm recording this. And the full moon to me is always a sign of connecting with self-expression, with that fluidness of understanding our journey. And the throat, the Vishuddha chakra, is about ether and space, that endlessness of space. And when we see the full moon, it's in its full expression of itself. When we see it in its full expression of itself, we see it in its full light, in its full radiance. And I believe that us as divine beings in a human form also shine our brightest when we are in full expression of ourselves. So thank you for joining me today, and please go explore that full expression beyond hopefully getting rid of your tension headache. That's where we start. Usually it's the muscles or pain or something uncomfortable that draw us into these practices, but keep exploring because there's so much more to who you are in that inner world. Peace, joy, love, and light.